Welcome into today's show. I am your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up, we have the keys to victory, key injuries to watch, and everything you need to know about Texans versus Titans. Basement cellar of a game in the AFC South. Both teams 0-3. Both teams basically season will be wrapped up shut with a loss here. I don't believe there's ever been a team that's gone 0-4 to then make the playoffs. The last team to go 0-3 and make the playoffs was the Houston Texans in 2018. Prior to that, you got to go all the way back to 1998 with the Buffalo Bills. So a major, major game here on tap for us in Week 4. And if you're going to be joining me on Sunday, we'll be live an hour before kickoff, 11 a.m. Central Time. Spam those H's if you're going to join me here on Sunday as the Texans fight for their life in Week 4. I can't believe I'm saying that, fighting for their life in Week 4 up against the Tennessee Titans. Now, before we get going with the keys to victory, a couple, notes with the Tennessee Titans because they've been kind of active this week. We all know C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the Texans. Titans have made some interesting moves as well. First off, they traded Jarvis Brownlee Jr., one of their starting corners, to the New York Jets in exchange for a late-round pick swap. He was somebody who played a lot of snaps for the Tennessee Titans, a fifth-round pick last year who looked like he was doing pretty good. So a very kind of head-scratching move from the outside looking in as somebody who's just kind of looking at what the Titans are doing. I was like, I don't see how this makes the Titans any better. Maybe they're just totally selling on the season already, but they already made a move this week right here. Also to be known, the injury report is out for the Titans in Week 4. Very important at the very top. J.C. Latham, their starting tackle, was out in Week 3, did not practice on Wednesday here going into Week 4. So that's going to be a big one. And as you scroll on down, you kind of look, Cam Ward also is on the injury report. The Titans starting quarterback. He was limited, so that means he still was out there, but he has an ankle and calf injury. That is to be monitored this week. I do hope that we play Cam Ward. I want to see how the Texans fare up against the Titans rookie, but that will be a big one because if Cam Ward's not good to go, we got to remember Will Levis is out for the year. That means Brandon Allen will be the starting quarterback for the Titans if Ward is not good to go. All right, let's look at the keys to victory for your Houston Texans. Number 1, establish the ground game. The Titans have not been good against the run this year, allowing 5.3 yards per carry this season, and they've given up a 40-yard run in each of their first 3 games. The Titans have struggled in stopping the run this year, and the Texans got to dominate on that because one of their best run stoppers is also going to be out in this week's matchup. T'Vondre Sweat, the former Texas defensive tackle, now placed on IR. He will not be playing in this Week 4 matchup. So they have Jeffrey Simmons, but his running mate, T'Vondre Sweat, won't be there to stop runs on the inside. So that means this running back room needs to produce. Nick Chubb, Dameon Pierce. I want to see more Woody Marks, even though he's kind of buried there on the depth chart. I should probably move this around a little bit. I think Woody Marks should be the running back too. But this Texans running back room's got to dominate. We got to see Nick Chubb. We got to see more Woody Marks. We got to see commitment to run the football. Last week, the Texans actually averaged a pretty good yardage mark on the ground. Over 4 yards a carry whenever they ran the ball up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's kind of, between penalties, not right situation, kind of went out of it. The Texans got to make sure they don't go away from the run, especially against the Titans, who throughout this season so far have already let up a ton of chunk run plays against their opponents. Number 2, you got to take some deep shots. This Texans offense, the lone touchdown last week came from it was a missed coverage, but at the same time, a deep bomb from C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins. You got to take those deep shots. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, the Tennessee Titans have allowed 6 receptions of 20-plus yards this year. So that means if I'm looking at this Texans offense, especially Nico Collins, who was disrespected by L'Jarius Sneed in the media this week. The Titans media went up to L'Jarius Sneed, their starting corner, and said, how do you feel about going up against Nico Collins? And he said, who? Who's that? He's not a real player. Okay. Point taken, L'Jarius Sneed. If you're going to say that, I want our guy. I want our wide receiver 1 to show up and show out against you this week. I need Nico Collins to be the Nico Collins of pass that can dominate L'Jarius Sneed. And he needs this guy to get him the football. C.J. Stroud, he needs to come out with more confidence. Maybe it's a home game up against the 0-3 Tennessee Titans that can finally turn things around for C.J. Stroud, who throughout this year, 64% completion percentage, not bad. Not even 600 yards, though, through 3 games. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions to start the year for Stroud. Not very good from the Texans signal caller. Hopefully he can turn it around this week. And I have a quick question for y'all. Let's play a little prize picks in today's show. 217.5 passing yards against the Titans for C.J. Stroud. Do you think Stroud is going more, or do you think Stroud is going less? If you feel strongly either way, I implore you, go check out our sponsor of today's show. That is Prize Picks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks, it's super simple. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Now, for this weekend, this is the lineup that I've concocted. They're giving you a freebie, guys. You got to take advantage of these deals. Prize Picks, they have deals every single week. You just got to check on the app. This week, Jalen Hurts, 0.5 passing yards. I know he hasn't absolutely slung it through the air so far this season. I think he can get 1 passing yard. So, yes, I'm taking that in my lineup. C.J. Stroud, 16.5 rush yards. He's used his feet a lot better this season, so I'm going the more with C.J. Stroud. And then Tony Pollard, 64.5 rush yards. We'll get to Tony Pollard here in just a moment, but give me the less on him. You can use my picks, or you can make your own lineup with our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? It's easy. I just showed you. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's look at the defensive side of the football for the Houston Texans. Will Anderson, he's got to dominate. I talked about J.C. Latham. He's on the injury report, and if he doesn't play, I need Will Anderson Jr., the Terminator, to go off this week. So far, he's been the best player on the Houston Texans, bar none. His stats, 12 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, an NFL-leading 19 pressures, and 3 sacks in 3 games. Not bad if you ask me for Will Anderson Jr. And the Titans' pass protection has been shaky at best this year. They've allowed a pressure rate of 45.3% through 3 games this season. That is 3rd worst in the National Football League. So not only Will Anderson Jr., but if you can get a little bit of Danielle Hunter, maybe some pressure from the inside, or maybe Tim Settle, Foley Futakasi, Tommy Togai, any of those guys on the interior, that would help this defense tremendously, especially when you don't have one of your starting safeties who you released this week in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Let's look at another key to victory. And I think even though they haven't been a real, screen-heavy team this year, with the Texans' pass rush and their emphasis on getting after Cam Ward, Brandon Allen, whoever plays for the Tennessee Titans this week, I think you have to be aware of the Titans trying to get you off guard with their screens. Tony Pollard, whenever he was a member of the Dallas Cowboys, was really good catching the ball out of the backfield in that screen game. He's the lead back there. Also, the backup running back for the Titans, Khalil Mullings, has been on the injury report this week, so expect a heavy load for Tony Pollard this week with the Tennessee Titans. So far this year, 54 carries, 197 yards, and 1 touchdown on the season. But look for them to maybe sneak him out of the backfield on a running back screen. Maybe even work a little bit, wide receiver screens with Calvin Ridley, a couple of their other guys, some quick passes, quick screens, get the ball out of the quarterback's hand, especially with how good the Texans pass rush can be against the shaky Titans offensive line. And my final key to victory, 4 quarters of swarm. 4 quarters of swarm. It seems like each and every single week, the Texans come out flat. They come out with no energy. They come out with, it's just like maybe on the first drive they score. Up against the Bucs, they scored on that first drive. After that, for like all the way through the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, it's just flat. I see no energy. I see no emotion. Swarm is supposed to be special work ethic and relentless mindset. I haven't seen relentless mindset for 4 quarters yet for our Houston Texans. So until they change that, until they play with their hair on fire, maybe the move of releasing C.J. Gardner-Johnson lights a fire under this entire team and says, hey, we got to show up, we got to show out and turn things around right now. Right now is the time. It's now or never. And week 4 up against the Tennessee Titans, that is the time to do it. Because if you don't win this game, we'll all be booking our vacations late January. I'm looking at Bahamas, maybe the Virgin Islands. I heard it's nice that time of year. I don't want to do that. I'd rather watch our Houston Texans make a miraculous turnaround and make the playoffs. But it all starts in week 4 up against the Tennessee Titans.